Turning on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to yet another insane edition of Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy. I am Dave Kelso. We have with us Richard Hamilton, and what is even more insane than any edition of Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy is the dumpster fire that is Article 13 and its insidious Orwellian little brother, Article 11. Oh my lordy! This is wow. This is completely insane. It's not unexpected. I'm not at all surprised by any of this. Um, Dave Cullen of Computing Forever, in roughly about a 10-minute video, he goes into some really good, straightforward, simple to understand detail about the complete dumpster fire that this is going to turn the entire internet into, and the purpose of our video and our live stream and our conversation about it today is to go into some of the finer point details and potentials that his short little 10-minute video did not go into. My lordy. All right. So basically, for those of you who don't already know, I'm going to explain the basics of what Article 13 and what Article 11 does. And even though this is something that was passed by the EU, if you're not in Europe, and especially if you're in the United States, like me and Richard, you might be thinking to yourself, well, what does anything that was passed in the EU have to do with the rest of the world, much less the United States? Oh, you'd be surprised. Or maybe you wouldn't be surprised. I guess you're about to find out. Okay, so here's what Article 13 does. Obviously, their whole, oh my god, everything is hate speech, hasn't really been going over too well. So now what they're going to be doing is, oh, everything is copyright infringement. Like, just everything. So, fair use has completely gone out the window with this. Most people are, I'm sure, familiar with YouTube's content matching system. But with Article 13, there's no appeal. You are fucked. And any little thing, even a 2-second, clip of something, if it ends up in the content matching system, you're fucked. Depending on how each copyright holder has it set up, one or more of the following can happen. If they're deciding to really be nice to you that day, they're going to monetize your shit as theirs. You don't get nothing. They make the money on the ad revenue, and about all you get is a middle finger. So that's if they're feeling nice. If they're feeling a little less nice, they'll just have your video taken down. It just completely taken down. Blocked everywhere. Blocked worldwide. And if they're feeling really super duper not nice, you'll earn yourself, a strike, a penalty on there. So let's imagine this, especially within the independent media, truth movement, whatever you want to call it. Everybody has used fair use content. I mean, especially if you're looking at talking about the news and stuff, how many of these channels use fair use news clips for illustration, right? Now all these news services, and do remember that all these corporations are multinational, so even if something is an American corporation, they've still got offices in the EU. And if something is a European corporation, they still got offices here. And it's not like YouTube is just going to be like, all right, well, we're just going to deny access to our service to all EU members. No, they're just going to go, oh, wait, we're just going to enforce Article 13 all the way across our platform, regardless of what countries anyone's in. So can we say mass channel takedown, mass purge? I mean, when this goes full live, I really don't even think this channel is going to survive it. So please make sure that you subscribe to us on BitChute. That's bitchute.com/PSEC documentary. Because, yeah, this channel is probably going to end up going bye-bye. Because in past PSEC episodes that aren't raw live streams like this, I use tons of fair use footage, which has always been, completely fine under the old policies. But now with the new policy, all those videos are going to get scanned. 3 strikes and you're out on YouTube. That's going to be it for this channel. Whenever that goes down. So enjoy seeing us on YouTube for as long as we're here, because with Article 13, I don't really expect that Paradigm Shift in Educational Comedy is going to be on YouTube for very much longer. As a matter of fact, I don't think any independent media is going to be on YouTube much longer with this sort of thing going on. The only thing you will see on YouTube from that point forward is the mainstream talking heads and whatever politically driven bullshit propaganda, be it from right wing or left wing, doesn't matter. Whatever they have to throw at you to brainwash you and try to tell you what reality allegedly is. Those are going to be the only ones left on YouTube. This is also going to affect a wide variety of other content creators, not only simply just independent media. How many channels are there out there for video games, for example? A lot of these video game companies have offices here and in the EU. It doesn't even matter if they don't have an office in the EU, because if they do Article 13 full blanket across the board with YouTube, well, you know that a lot of these game copyright holders, these people that make all the different games, they're going to totally monopolize on that. And the game reviewers, people who talk about the games and review the games and do gaming live streams and all that, they will be lucky if these copyright holders for these game companies simply decide to steal all of the revenue for themselves. They'll actually be lucky if that's all that happens. What's probably going to happen is all these people that have gaming channels, they're going to very quickly earn their 3 YouTube strikes. They'll be gone. All the different people that critique movies and things like that, movies, TV series, so on and so forth, by default, that utilizes, fair use, even if they don't actually have any, moving video, just having a still image, because this Article 13, it's for still images too. It's for pictures as well as, videos or anything else. So all the people that, do movie reviews and stuff, all their channels will be gone. Overlord DVD, which is Overlord Dictor Van Doomcock, Midnight's Edge, World Class Bullshitters, all the different channels that do all these different, movie and TV series reviews and stuff. Boofire 191, the list goes on. They'll be gone. Just bam, strike, strike, strike. Goodbye. They'll be gone. So basically, YouTube will just become a mainstream celebrity cesspool, and the only people to survive this will be the ones that basically post like cat videos of like their own like pet cats, and like that's pretty much it. So, YouTube is going to be completely and absolutely screwed. What Article 11 does, Article 11 applies more to social media in general. You know, looking at like Facebook, Twitter, and even alternative social media sites. With Article 11, you can't even post a link to an outside source, nor can you quote that outside source directly. So let's imagine for a moment that you're on Facebook or any of these social media platforms, and you post a CNN link, let's just say. And let's say CNN wants to be dicks and invoke this, Article 11 shit. Well, with any sort of quoting or link posting or anything like that, ooh, now there's a link tax, right? They actually want to charge money for the privilege. And of course, on social media, they have no way of charging you directly. They can't charge you the tax. So what are they going to try to do? They're going to try to charge Facebook. They're going to try to charge Minds. They're going to try to charge Gab. They're going to try to charge Twitter. And I'd imagine that Facebook and Twitter are not going to want to pay this tax. So unless they can negotiate some sort of a workaround where they don't have to pay it, those services will simply no longer be available in the EU. And that's just simply it. Plus, with Article 13, social media services that allow for pictures and video, which is like all of them, they would be required to create and implement these complex, stupid content matching systems in order to be in compliance with Article 13. And their only other option, again, would be, well, just going to have to block access from anyone trying to visit these sites from the EU. That would be the only recourse. So the whole premise on this, they're using copyright as an excuse, but what it is complete and total censorship of freedom of speech, period. In the absolute least case scenario, sites are going to have to block any viewers coming in from the EU. In the worst case scenario, these sites might not even be able to function anymore. So, I mean, this is going to create a total dumpster fire. I mean, imagine not being able to share links, not being able to, post your opinion and your comments on it. Imagine that the only thing that is shared at all is mainstream stuff through mainstream sources, through mainstream platforms, and hey, you're not allowed to dissent anymore at that point. You're not allowed to talk about anything. You're not allowed to say, hey, look at what that government's doing there. Look at what that corporation's doing there. I don't like that. Let's discuss it. Let's have it as a topic. Nope. Hostile, bye-bye. So this is an Orwellian shit show. And for the EU in general right now, they're already in hot enough water. The whole migrant crisis that Merkel caused, people in the EU are already about this close to, I'll just call it full-scale revolution to be polite. And then we look at the people in Paris, the Yellow Vest movement, whose main focus for their protests, which have mostly been peaceful, except for a few troublemakers and the cops. But their protests are about the fact that prices are too high on everything. There's too many taxes. Like, people are literally having difficulty making it week to week, with food on their table. So The whole EU is already a powder keg. And then don't even get me started on the UK and all the stuff that's going on there. So the entire EU is totally a powder keg, this close to complete full revolutionary eruption. Then they're going to add this on top of it. Yeah, I don't really see that going well. So it's going to create a lot of problems, and it's going to create a lot of problems in the United States as well. Because let's say, some of you might be thinking, well, wait a minute. What about the American companies that don't want to comply? Let's imagine hypothetically some of these American companies saying, well, you know what? I'm going to allow access to our platform planet-wide, including people in the EU, and you can go fuck yourselves if you don't like it. We're not putting in your content matching system. We're not doing any of this crap. Fuck your link tax. Go to hell. You know what the companies, the copyright holders in the EU would then do? They have offices in America. So guess what that means? Those American offices can then sue the American offices of, any of these social media providers that are saying, hey, we're in America. This has nothing to do with us. Fuck you. So then you're going to have all these stupid lawsuits going back and forth, and maybe the judges will throw it out and say, yeah, this is America, go get banned. Or maybe the judges will agree with the European Union. I don't know. But I think it's pretty clear the not the potential for disaster, but the inevitability of disaster, and the only unknown is the specifics on exactly what types of disasters and how that's going to look and how far that's going to go. This is also going to affect the world stage economically. Are you enjoying your shitty economy so far? Are you enjoying having to work more hours for less pay as the prices on everything keep going up? Well, this is going to be a free market destabilizer. This is going to affect everything globally. The whole economy, regardless of what industry, is an intricate web that all affects each other. You start affecting, big tech stuff in this way, and yeah, it's going to affect every other market. Everything is all just kind of a web of business in that way. So that's going to make prices of all sorts of things soar and continue to worsen the economy and so on and so forth. There's all of these different potentials that will, in various ways and forms, inflate and amplify existing problems that we're already dealing with. So this thing is a total dumpster fire, and I'm just gonna say that what I'm about to say here. I'm not saying I approve of this. I'm not saying that I want any of this to happen, but just observing reality as it is and not being in denial. All of this stuff has to happen for people to wake up, because most people are oblivious to reality. They do not understand the simple fact that the world is run by criminals, and those criminals run all the governments in the world. I mean, look around. No conspiracy theories required. Look at all the tomfuckery that's happening in each and every country around the world and ask yourself, gee, how is this happening? Well, that's because the masses not only insist upon having psychopathic overlords rule over them, we call them politicians, not only do the masses insist upon it, they demand it. They think there's no such thing as a solution, save for a political solution. People are just completely brainwashed into these cults of worship. They bow to politicians as if they are gods. and they also bow to the different industries. There's the mainstream media cult that people bow to, the big pharma cults that people bow to, the status cult. Oh, and especially if you're in America, rah rah, yay America! Our government can do no wrong because there's this piece of paper here called the Constitution that is magically protecting us from evil. So what could go wrong? And how dare you blaspheme against our God? So it's totally, it's cult fanaticism. It is worship. Okay, let's just be completely honest about it. It is very radical. Most people have been radicalized without even realizing that they've been radicalized because they blindly worship these different cults. The cult of Obama, the cult of Hillary, the cult of Trump, the cult of statism, the cult of Big Pharma, the cult of this, the cult of that, the cult of the other. Which is why there's so much fighting online. Even the truth movement, I call them the untruth movement now, because most of them are a bunch of narcissistic, culty fucks now. Sorry, I'm just calling truth here. They like to fight with each other over every little detail of every little conspiracy theory. And I'm not saying that these truthers are wrong about any of the information they put out. I'd have to say that 98% of all the information on 98% of all the conspiracy theories, highest probabilities, it's all correct. It's also completely irrelevant that it's all correct because it all acts as distraction, and people just start getting these big egos and they start infighting with each other on these details. Divide and conquer, exactly what the criminals who run the world want. So while we're busy fighting with each other, these corporate criminals are just bending us over and fucking us in every area imaginable. Well, we just fight with each other like 3-year-olds. So, like, the truth movement has become that too. So I call it the untruth movement at this point. Fuck the truth movement. Sorry, just being truthful here. Because the truth movement has become hypocrites. They're every bit as bad as the mainstream media. And if you don't follow the official truth movement, mainstream truth movement narrative, because now the truth movement kind of like is its own mainstream in its way, if you don't follow their narrative, then you're going to take as much shit as the mainstream will give you for not following its narrative. So, complete narcissism, complete Stockholm syndrome, complete divide and conquer. So you know what? We need shit and fan to rendezvous. That's just a fact. We need it to get bad. We need it to get worse. We need it to get worse and worse. And the faster, the better. And that's really the only way people are going to wake up and snap out of their trance. Now, like I said, that's not something I want to happen. It's not something I agree with. It's not something I'm looking forward to. It's just, just looking at reality for what it is, and you see it, it's like, yeah, that's literally what it's going to take. Because people are so brainwashed, so distracted, and everybody's just locked in this outrage culture. Not just leftist social justice warriors, but the right-wingers and the Trump worship and the truthers and the New Agers, and just, everybody's in their little fanatic cults, right? It's like so locked in outrage culture, just looking to be offended by every little thing, looking to attack the other guy in order to boost their own egos and blah, blah, blah. That really, like, full-blown shit fan rendezvous, the faster, the more intense, the better. Let's go full Hitler. Let's go full Orwell. Every single level, every single direction, faster than the human mind can keep up with it. So fast that the human mind cannot bear to exist anymore. That it's so stressful. So that there's only 2 options left at that point. Suicide or wake the fuck up, So, unfortunately, that is literally what it is going to take. Because people's heads are so entranced that they are immune to logic, they are immune to reason, they are immune to facts. So reality has to come tumbling down like a pile of bricks on top of them in order for them to wake up. And this includes the so-called woke truth movement, which is only virtue signaling being woke. Because knowing a bunch of true facts about something doesn't make you woke. So, your input, Richard.
Well, I think you've said a lot of what I could say. All I know is the whole Article 13 and Article 11 issue is just another example of how the political mainstream or how the political elite want to lock down and censor humanity, and completely eliminate any alternative means of gathering information, because they know more than anybody, or just about anybody, that it's an information war above all. And if they can dominate and control the public consensus and opinion, they can essentially have complete unchallenged reign on any and everything that they do. Um, it's very similar to the tactics you would see in Nazi Germany, where they would completely ban the press, they would completely lock everything down, and the only consensus of opinion was what the Reich was publishing. Joseph Goebbels was a big proponent of that sort of thing, and many empires throughout history have had similar tactics, shutting down alternative information. If you can control the press, you can control, in theory, the hearts and minds of the people. The only difference between the internet, what I don't think that they understand, is even with Article 13, there's workarounds. There's going to be countermeasures made. Decentralized networking, is one example. You know, people aren't going to sit down and take this lightly, people who are paying attention. And although right now we're not seeing really any sign of anything yet, nobody's up in arms or outraged over it. When it really goes full online and the algorithms really kick in, and, you know, there's the censorship for posting just generic memes or generic, kitten pictures or generic whatever. People are going to notice that stuff. The channels are starting to get pulled off of the internet for nothing political at all. I mean, just look at what they're doing to PewDiePie. Now, imagine what's going to happen to PewDiePie once Article 13 and Article 11 get fully established. Will PewDiePie even still exist? Who knows? Well, a lot of these video game channels, alternative art channels, any of these channels on YouTube that run their own content remain online. Will any of the Second Amendment or pro-gun channels exist online after Article 11 and Article 13 go through? Who knows? What people don't realize is it's a Pandora's box, because these sorts of rules, these sorts of laws are governed by international committees. And the unfortunate thing is, although, yeah, it's being done in the EU, a lot of people would say, well, that's the EU. Who the hell cares about the EU? What people don't understand is the unfortunate thing is the internet is a worldwide connected body. So, in essence, if one geographic region is affected by a rule or a law, it's a domino effect, and everybody else is going to be feeling the repercussions from that. And it's going to get very, very interesting here in the next 6 months to 2 years to see how all of this plays out and to what occurs and what countermeasures will roll out. And, the EU is the modern equivalent to what Hitler would have wanted for Europe. I mean, it's a complete power lockdown. It's all European nations united together in one giant umbrella of complete hierarchical pyramidal control structure. And, these are the kind of implements or the tools in which, the higher elites want to implement on the rest of humanity, because they don't want independent thought. They don't want independent media. They don't want freedom. They don't want freedom of speech, freedom of expression. They want to control and dominate all opinions. You can already see Google doing that with its search algorithms. You can already see Facebook doing that by censoring pages and knocking anything down it deems to be fake news. You can already see that on YouTube with demonetizations and strikes that have occurred against content creators. Daily Motion did that to Dave Kelso at some point. knocked him off just for posting uh, a video that the French government didn't like. I mean, this stuff is going on, but this is just the bigger, broader rollout of that sort of thing. And what a lot of people don't realize is if you don't take an interest in politics, politics is going to take an interest in you. And it doesn't matter whether or not you're uploading, politically controversial content, or, the photos of your grandkids, or the photo, you know, or, kittens. It doesn't matter. They will censor it because they can and because they want to. And it has nothing more to do than with power control and domination. And here's the other thing with those sorts of algorithms, you upload a personal portrait on vacation. What if you're wearing this kind of t-shirt, the Star Wars t-shirt? Ooh, that's copyrighted now. That's copyrighted material. You can't post that on the internet. That's a Star Wars t-shirt. Star Wars has exclusive rights to that. You can't have that. You can't post that online. That's Star Wars content. So, I mean, people don't realize, just what kind of loopholes, what kind of Pandora's box has been opened up, and what kind of full retard measures have been rolled out in this utterly disastrous gambit for total control of all information across the internet. And the other thing is, when the votes were initially going in for Article 13 and Article 11 and all of these lovely little gems, a lot of the MPs in the European Union misread the bill, and they didn't realize what they were voting for just because of the vague wording. They thought they were, it's, copyright protection, all that stuff. Well, yeah, I agree that, copyright is a good thing moderately in a mediated sort of environment. It's not good, however, when it becomes about when the reality of it is it's not about copyright at all. It's about domination, subversion, and control. And that's all it's ever been about. They tell you it's about intellectual protection of individual property. Bullshit. It has nothing to do with individual protection of individual property. If that were the case, we wouldn't be seeing mass demonetization. We wouldn't be seeing all of these Orwellian things that we're seeing. We would see a very modest, moderate system where content could be easily protected and respected, and fair use stuff, regardless of what it would be respected and appreciated. But that's not the case. Basically what happened is they hijacked the vote. They totally lied to not only to the MPs, but they lied to the European people on top of that.
I just want to make a quick note about copyright. The reason copyright was originally invented, what it originally was, it was not invented to prevent the spread of content at all. It was never invented to, like, hey, I made this song, so you can't have it for free. It was not meant for that. What it was originally meant for is what people were doing way back in the day is they'd be using something that somebody else made, and they'd be making a profit off it, and not giving any of that profit to the original creator. So what copyright was there for is to say, hey, if you're making money off of somebody else's work, they get a cut of that money. That's it. It wasn't supposed to be about, oh no, you can't give out intellectual property for free. It wasn't supposed to be a suppression of art and music and literature. It was never supposed to be about suppression. It wasn't supposed to be about, oh, if you're giving that away, then you're damaging my sales. And that is a total bullshit concept, because you can listen to songs for free on the radio, and guess what that does? That boosts music sales. When the first P2P service originally came out, Napster, what freaked out the recording industry is that because of Napster, their CD sales went up 60%. Why would that freak them out? Loss of control. It's not the RIAA that made that happen. It was some third party that made that happen. So it was a loss of control. Why do people buy DVDs and Blu-ray when they can easily get the same movie in the theater, on TV, on Netflix, on Hulu, so on and so forth? Well, they buy the DVD and the Blu-ray because A, people love having something physical to hold and to have that say, this is mine. And, they also like to support, the content creator so that they have the money to continue creating more of the content that they like. So that's CDs, that's DVDs, that's books, that's anything. Even with books, it's like if someone downloads like an online PDF or an audiobook version of something, and let's say it's quote unquote pirated, right? Well, the fact that that's available for free increases the chances that somebody's actually going to go buy the CD for the audiobook or go on Amazon and purchase the physical book because they want to have it. They want to support the author. Same with video games. Same with anything else. As a matter of fact, back in the day when I used to be more of a hardcore gamer, I don't really do gaming much anymore, but back in the day, the reason I ended up buying a lot of different games is because first and foremost, I pirated it. Hey, I like this. These people deserve my money. I'm going to go buy that now. You know what I mean? So that's the reality of how it actually works. And so all these other lame ass excuses, it's nothing but being about control. And as far as what you were saying about decentralized technology, I think Article 13 and Article 11 is going to light a fire under the asses of developers that are working on fully decentralized technology, because there's a difference between decentralized technology and fully decentralized technology. When people think decentralized, what do they think of? They think of Steemit, they think of Mines, they think of WebTorrent, they think of BitTorrent, they think of BitChute, they think of IPFS, things like that. But the problem is there's still bottlenecked front-end centralization. You still have to go through domain name providers and have, web hosting services and things like that are still running on centralization. I mean, look at what happened when Gab's domain name got taken down for a bit, There's a flaw right there. And now with fully decentralized technology that's fully encrypted and you're fully protected, you have full agency, and it's the sort of technology to where there's no central point running it. All of the nodes on the network create the network. There's no central point of control, no central point of fail. In that situation, all anybody will be able to discern is that an IP address is connected to the network. That's it. And unless somebody reveals their identity while they're quote unquote violating these articles or whatever, what can anybody do? There's no person to charge for a link tax. There's no business to charge for a link tax. I mean, what are they going to do? Try to charge the software developers of the technology? No, they can't do that. It's like, hey, I'm not running an online social media service. I created a piece of software for people to use. That's it. You can't do fuck. So the only thing they could really do to try to thwart decentralized technology is country to country just make the use of the technology illegal. And if they did that, they would be risking some heavy 1776 style repercussions if they did that, because that would red flag with anybody that even has a quarter of a brain.
Yep. But besides that interesting side note that you went into about copyright and the repercussions of outlawing decentralized technology, um, back to where I was, going back, kind of backtracking. So basically, what happened is these MPs that accidentally voted on the bill, on these bills, were tricked into voting with vague language, and they basically pulled a bait and switch. And it wasn't until it was too late that they realized what they had voted on, wanted to do a revote, and of course, naturally, as is, the people who were in favor of the bill or bills, who are the tyrants, said, "Oh no, you can't revote. You already made your choice. Screw you. You're not allowed to vote." So the European people essentially got shafted on uh, legalese and poorly written language, and just the typical things that they do. Um, just making bills that sound good in theory, but in reality are total dumpster fires and create loopholes out the yin yang, and uh, completely alter the internet as we know it. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see the countermeasures that arise from this whole thing. As negative as this is exactly what humanity needs right now, because it's going to motivate the right people to be at the right place at the right time to do the right thing. And it's got to get worse before it gets better. That's just the way it is. If it doesn't get worse, it's not likely to get better, because the way humanity's been for a very long time is we've been very complicit with our environment and our scenery, and given the option to either do something that's totally new and totally scary, or deal with something that's unpleasant but familiar. 98% of humanity is going to choose the unpleasant and familiar, as opposed to the new and preferable, but still at the same time scary. And it's one of those things, people have been brainwashed to fear itself. Well, it's time for humanity to make that choice and to step up and say, am I going to allow fear to dominate me, or am I going to choose to make fear my bitch and dominate it, and learn some new things about, myself, and as a collective species in the process. Humanity has potential, but humanity's got to get whacked in the ass in order to unlock that potential at this point. That's what humanity needs. It's the tough love. So I'm not I'm not telling me and Dave are not telling anybody to fear Article 13 or to uh, stress over Article 13, not at all, but definitely be aware of what it is, be aware of the rattlesnake that it is, respect that it's a rattlesnake, and chop the head off, essentially. Chop the head of the snake off, kick the head away so it doesn't end up biting you out of reaction, and skin the snake and make a belt out of it. Because this is the opportunity that we have before us to do just that with decentralized networking, make a nice metaphorical belt out of something that's really unpleasant otherwise. So that's pretty much what I have to say on this issue. I mean, it's shady, it's shitty, it sucks, but here it is. This is the hand that's been played, and we can choose to play a hand of our own, and be just as effective, if not more effective, than the globalist psychopaths that enacted this trash heap of a piece of legislation.
Another problem also is that we're living in the 21st century, but people have 20th century thinking with 19th century attitudes. So the technology and the knowledge for amazing solutions, and a lot of them simple, for a great many things, does exist. But because even a 21st century person that, say, is, I don't know, 25, 30 years old, whatever, much less anybody older, but, somebody like that has still been taught to think in terms as if it was still 1940, 1950, 1960, thinking with that attitude, completely ignoring any and all 21st century solutions. They've got this 20th century attitude, which is why, I mean, you can look all over the internet for this stuff. All of the different technologies and things that science has come up with to solve a great many things. And not only does the mainstream reject it and go, no, we're not using that, but the average person views these ideas as delusional, like, oh no, that's too futuristic. They're lying. That can't be possible. That's not a thing, or whatever. And like you said, they're also they're terrified of change, obviously too. I call it the software-based frontal lobotomy, whereas instead of taking the scalpel and shoving it up there and doing the windshield wiper thing and decimating the frontal lobe just has been made atrophied with preference to neural networks for what's already been programmed by parents, by teachers, by the media, by government, by by life circumstances, by by a lot of things. So we live in a technological age, but our psychology, our paradigms, our emotional states, and our ethics are not keeping step with technological advancements. So most of the good solutions that do exist that can be implemented, they're rebuffed, rejected, denied. And all of the worst possible ideas are implemented by the psychopaths that run things, whether we like it or not. And even with that, a lot of the stuff that the psychopaths are implementing, people are like, oh no, that's a crazy conspiracy theory. And it's so retarded that you can be like, look, here's what the CDC admits on their own website. Here's what Big Pharma admits. Look, here's what Google themselves admit. Look at the leaked video. You can see it really is Google. It's not fake. It really is Google. Here's what they're saying. You can shower people with all this evidence, and they're like, nope, that's crazy. That's got to be wrong. That's got to be fake. I mean, you could even give someone a .gov URL, and one thing that's amusingly common is, oh, that's a fake website. It's like, oh, really? Only the United States government is allowed to register a .gov domain. Johnny 14-year-old can't steal his parents' credit card and register a .gov domain. That's not a thing that can't be done. Just like .mil for military. The average person can't just go in and register that sort of thing. Or .il for Illinois. Each state has their own little extension too. Unless you are an authorized government employee, you can't make a website like that. So, regardless of how truthful or not the data is on any of these websites, the truth is that, yes, it is the government that put it there. So when the government is admitting to certain things, they're admitting to it. You could debate how true it is or not, but it's ludicrous to debate that the government put it there. It's their freaking site. Of course they put it there, But people like to say, oh, that's fake. That's not really a government site. Government didn't really put it there. Well, gee, how do you figure? Seeing as the United States government is the only ones that can actually create that website. Literally, nobody else can. Go try. I challenge anybody to try to go create a .gov site. You're not going to do it. I challenge anybody to go try to create a .mil website. You're not going to be able to do it because it's restricted to authorized United States government personnel only. So my point is even when something is coming from a point of authority that a person already worships, if the information is contradictory to the paradigms they already have, and they're not wanting to blaspheme against their God, they're just going to go, no, 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 my God didn't say that. My God, the CDC didn't say that. My deity that I worship, Big Pharma, didn't really admit that. My Lord and Savior, government and the state, no, they didn't say that. You're obviously trying to pull a fast one on me. And it's like, you know. So this is the attitude of most humans right now. And in order to break out of that programming, like you said, like I said, the big ton of bricks called reality is going to have to fall on them fast and hard. So that they go, oh shit, how did this happen? Because my deity that I worship, Big Pharma, CDC, the mainstream media, government, my deity, which I bow to in reverence and blindly obey without question, how could my deity do this to me? It defies the belief systems that I have about my Lord, God, and Savior, the state, Big Pharma, the mainstream, etc., whatever. Oh, how could Donald Trump possibly? How could the FBI possibly? How could these corporations possibly? Because they have a magic force field protecting them from these sorts of corruptions. How could they possibly betray me? How could they possibly screw me like this? How could they possibly have been lying to me? Because they're facing a reality of like, wow, they just did this to me. But how could they? That's not possible. My belief systems about it say this can't be. This cannot be possible. So then they'll be forced to face reality. And that's happened to a lot of people already. But even though it's happened to a lot of people already, it's still the extreme minority of the population. So it needs to happen to a lot more people, a lot faster. Those bricks need to fall down for people to go, whoa, what just happened here? Everything I thought I believed about reality was just contradicted. What in the fuck just happened to me? Because when people hear about things happening off in the distance, whether they believe it happened or whether it's bullshit, regardless, when people perceive it as being off in the distance, they can dismiss it. It's not about me. It's not in my personal life. What do I care? But when something lands on their lap and it hits hard and it hits personal and it affects them directly, now suddenly they give a shit. And that's just the way it is.
Indeed.
Anything else you want to say on this?
Not really. Not particularly.
Yeah, I'm about done as well. All I can say is I look forward to the development of fully decentralized technology. And I really think that a fire is going to be lit under the asses of the
Indeed.
developers of that. And a lot of other developers that currently haven't taken interest in that technology, they're developing other things. Once the internet turns into a big enough dumpster fire, they're going to start taking interest. Because thankfully, one thing that Article 13 and 11 and all this shit doesn't block, it does not block the ability for a developer to have their own website and their own community to work on and release their own software. This, it does not block.
Mm-hmm.
Yet.
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 Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't. It's kind of like Article 13 is the eclipse of the internet.
Yeah, yeah. No matter how many people scream that they don't want it, the DeviantArt staff, I mean the politicians, they just want to throw it in our face anyway and say it's going to be great, it's going to be wonderful, it's going to be awesome. That's an inside joke for deviant artists. If you're not on DeviantArt, you're not going to
You won't
understand.
get it.
Anyway, yep, that's about it. Everybody, thanks for watching. We're living in a brave new world. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. So just remember, view the negative as a positive opportunity for positive change and laugh lightheartedly at all the tomfuckery and chaos. Because if you don't, you will go insane. Literally. You have to look at it on the positive side, or as Vinny Eastwood likes to say, the brighter side of genocide.
Indeed.
So, catch you all later. Have a good day, night, whatever it is where you are.
Have a
Peace
good
out.
night.